every couple of months, I always need a new obsession, which will hopefully bring me a little bit of joy and a little bit of happiness. And recently, I wasn't doing too well mental health wise, so I had to turn off the true crime podcast, shut off the horror movies, because I obviously couldn't completely abandon my phone because I'm just a girl and just as screen obsessed like everybody else, sadly, in this generation or this day and age, to be honest. And so I decided to binge watch nature documentaries with the hope that they would bring me some peace. And one day I clicked on a documentary about orcas, and when I tell you, I truly have not been the same ever since. I fell into a deep obsession with them, and I have consumed endless hours of orca content. Everyone in my life is sick of my obsession, so I feel the desperate need to share my love with the world. I don't know if you will care, but here are some facts and a little bit of knowledge about them. So maybe, hopefully, you will fall in love with them too, if you're not already. Their scientific name is Orcinus orca. They are classified as mammals belonging to the family of dolphins, and they're actually the largest species of dolphins. Their lifespan is somewhere between 50 and 90 years, considering that they are not caged in somewhere, and the females often get a lot older than the males. The males can get up to 9,000 kilograms and somewhere up to 10 meters long, and the females up to 5,500 kilograms and somewhere up to 9 meters long. There are somewhat around 50,000 orcas in the world, and they are categorized into resident, transient, and offshore orcas. The resident orcas are mainly found in the Pacific Northwest. The transient orcas range along the Pacific coast of North America, and the offshore orcas are found far offshore and are usually around a 10-mile radius from the coast. And the biggest difference between them is mainly their hunting techniques and what they eat. Now, a little bit about their social life, which I think is really interesting because orcas are highly social animals who live in well-organized groups, which are also called pods. And like every successful society, their pods are dominated by females, often the oldest female holding a special place of authority. They always travel together and are rarely out of contact for more than a couple of hours. They show impressive coordination while hunting for food, and they are also capable of planning their attacks, which I'm gonna get to later. And as I said, the different orcas around the world, they have different diets, and there's one part of orcas which have a really fascinating way of hunting for their food. In Argentina, a part of whales have developed a hunting strategy where they intentionally beach themselves in order to catch seals and sea lions. This strategy is passed on to the younger generations, and in order to get back into the water, they wait for the waves to carry them back, essentially. This technique was first observed in the 1970s in Argentina and is pretty unique to that specific pod. There is a really cute documentary on YouTube where a group of scientists follow one of the pods which use that hunting strategy, and you can see how they teach this knowledge or this technique to the younger ones in the pods, specifically a young female called Delphine. And it's genuinely one of the cutest documentaries. Like, if you just want to zone out of your stressful daily life, you should really watch this documentary, because Delphine is a little bit of a troublemaker. She likes to get herself into a lot of messy situations, and her family is always there to help her out, and it's really, really cute. I genuinely think about Delphine quite a lot in my daily life. It's quite funny, so I'm gonna link that below if you want to watch it. It's a really cute documentary. In other parts of the world, they show their really impressive planning skills by swimming in synchrony to create waves that knock seals off of ice floes. When the ice is too big, they create waves powerful enough to break the floes, circling around until the animal will essentially just fall off. They can also be quite brutal when it comes to hunting. They like to sometimes throw around their prey and play with it before eating. A lot of brutality with a certain kind of intelligence. To understand how they are capable of planning their attacks so well, one must look at their communication. I think it's also one of the most fascinating things about orcas, also since it's not 100% understood how exactly their communication works. But we do know that they see their surroundings with their ears, sending out clicking sounds which travel as sound waves, and once those sound waves hit objects, they travel back to the orca in form of an echo. This creates a mental picture of the surrounding for them. All of the different pods have different languages, so if different families would meet, they wouldn't really have a way to understand each other. This essentially means that they have culture and group identity, just like us. They use different kind of whistles and calls, which aren't genetic, but learned through generations. They also use it in different ways. For example, the transient orcas, which primarily eat marine mammals, are usually quiet during hunting, while the resident orcas eat primarily fish, and they are much more vocal when hunting, because the fish won't really care about the sounds. But with the marine mammals, they could hear the sound, know that it's a predator, and hide. And as I said, we don't really 100% know how their communication works, and so we're also not able to understand their language. But maybe one day we will have the ability to understand their way of communication. Then we could also ask them about a mysterious behavior that's been happening for a couple of years now. Firstly, I have to say, while there are so many records of wild animals attacking humans, you always hear about different kind of incidents, tragic incidents, but there has never been a recorded attack where a orca hurts a human. And I think that's extremely fascinating, that they have never hurt a human. But there has been something happening in Spain and Portugal, where a pod of orcas have been known to attack boats, specifically the rudder, which navigates the boat. They don't have any interest in any other part of the boat, going straight to the rudder, which is also the most efficient way to disable the boat. The attacks cluster in specific pods in that certain area. So the question is it a behavior which is socially transmitted? Do they want to harm us? When you first hear about it, it seems like quite an aggressive behavior from a wild predator. But then there are so many factors to be considered, which makes the whole thing quite mysterious. With these attacks, there is no record of a human ever being seriously injured. I mean, obviously, it's quite a scary situation, so the level of stress you're under while your boat is being attacked by an orca will probably harm you enough. But if they would have seriously wanted to hurt humans, considering their strength, ability to plan, and seeing how they're able to hunt their prey, they would absolutely have the ability to do that. There is a website called Orca Ibérica.org, I hope I pronounced that right, which has a very detailed record of these interactions. The website is really cool. If you want to have a look at it, it's very detailed. There are very detailed records of the attacks, how many there are, what exactly happened, and they also show the different orcas. So if you want to have a look at that, I will also link that below. There are a bit more than 200 incidents to this day, and I think that that's honestly such a huge number, considering that there has never been serious harm done to humans. So why do they do it? Scientists seem to have found the answer. It's bored juveniles looking for a little bit of fun. It seems to be a playful behavior, and they might be attracted to the motion, vibration, or the noise that's created. Thinking about all of that noise pollution, it could honestly also be a stress response. Since they communicate with echolocation, whistles, calls, and low frequency sounds, they could be disrupted, making the communication within their pod difficult, contributing to stress levels. There's also a theory that it's a stress response, since there was an orca named White Gladys who once got hurt by a boat. So it could also be a sort of revenge. This might also be plausible considering how empathetic these animals are. There is one story which genuinely really broke my heart. There is a resident orca, Tahlequah, and she carried her deceased calf for 17 days back in 2018. And it's a story that also really stayed with me, because you can see that they potentially also grieve, in their own way. It's also important to note how intelligent these animals are. And one thing that's quite new is that scientists have found record that orcas are able to create and use tools. There is a new sensation called Allokelping, where orcas have used the length of bull kelp, making it shorter, and then holding the kelp between themselves and another orca, rubbing it along their bodies. So a use of a tool, which I think is really cool. Just a good case of Friday night self-care between the family members. And since we are talking about self-care, we must also have a look at what else the girlies are doing. In the summer of 1987, the baddest one of them all set a trend for the hot girl summer of that year. She was seen wearing a salmon for a hat for no apparent reason. And of course, just within a short span of time, the rest of the pod followed and they all were seen sporting the trendy hats. And just like the 90s fashion is making a comeback for us, the Northwest Pacific orcas have been recently seen going back to the fashion trend from 1987, which I think is really cute, you know, just them sporting a good old salmon on their head, just for fun, for being trendy. And I think it's also fascinating that they all follow and just yeah, go with the flow, go with the trends. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that I could pass my obsession onto you, that you're now gonna go and enjoy all the orca documentaries there are. Also, if you have any recommendations, please let me know in the comments down below. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and hopefully until next time.